Well, Kerstin, here we are again in front of the court where we were today with the 23rd. I'm already going to the next one. 24th hearing on the 6th of August 2024, and it was a remarkable day. Totally. It was like Swiss cheese, full of holes, full of breaks and
totally yes.
Yeah. So, what is your impression?
It was quite special. Well, it was. We are the 6th of August, but I think you already said that, huh?
Yeah, but it still is the 6th.
Yes, and well, it was quite funny again from the very beginning, because we were sitting in the courtroom, and Mr. Frank Grosenbach, the lawyer of Viviane Fischer, took his place again in as a adhesive plaintiff. I guess that's the word. And he was sitting there as if everything was fine. And then the judge entered the room, and he watched him and he said, "Well, leave the courtroom." And then it was again a big discussion going on between the two of them. He said, "Why do I have to leave?"
I think he started out saying that what Grosenbach had submitted was exactly the same as last time. And what had happened is that Grosenbach...
That was later.
Right, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
But yes, yeah, he of course that it was that. But in the beginning, they were just discussing. He said, "Well, I put what do you call it? An application or
a request?
A request." Yeah. And he said, "No, but you were already refused. Leave the room. Leave the room." And then finally, Frank Grosenbach took his place again with the spectators. And then he was yelling from behind the glass. So it was quite special from the very beginning.
Yeah, because he had submitted another request.
Yes.
But accidentally he had submitted the old one. And then the judge saw the date and he saw the thing, and that's why he sent him away, because he submitted exactly the same document. Yes. And last time I told you to go, so please go again. And so there was this consternation, but it isn't the same document. I wrote something different, and the judge said, "No, you didn't." And then he found out he'd given him the wrong thing. Yeah. Of course, the judge could have said, "Excuse me, Mr. Grosenbach, it seems there's been a mistake. Do you have a modern or more up-to-date document?" But anyway, so there was a lot of commotion already. So he went back to the public arena and gave his documents to Herr Miseré, Mr. Miseré, who then submitted it as part of the evidence for the defense.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that was already peculiar. Then Katja Wörmer, the main lawyer of Reiner Fuellmich, she objected to this rule that he had installed, that you can only now submit any request written, in written form. But she wanted to read out that request verbally, and that was of course prohibited again. And then Miseré, it was almost like football, because she did a run to the goal, it didn't work. Then Herr Miseré came and he did a try to get the Selbstleserverfahren off. And every time something like that happened, then because the judges can't discuss it, they pause for a break. Yes. They go behind in their room, and this guy and we were having. I mean, the first break was 15 minutes. The second break was 20 or half an hour or an hour.
Don't even remind them.
And it was almost like a Swiss clock, like cuckoo, every time we came in and out and in and out. And
it was ongoing breaks.
Rather hilarious. Yeah. Up to the point that at one point Herr Miseré said, there's no point doing it like this, because you disappear every time, and this only stalls the proceedings, because every time you have to stop. And then the judge said, all right, well, we need to discuss it. We're going to pause now. It happened again. Yeah. It was absurd.
I mean, the actual discussions in the room are so short now. It's like we had some hearings of 4 minutes, right?
Yes.
In between the pauses.
Yeah.
And then we had pauses again. And I mean, there were spectators doing
bets,
saying jokes and saying, "When will we have a real break?"
Yeah, when will the next one be?
Yes. And it was quite special.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So Katja Wörmer, the lawyer for Fuellmich, she had requested to hear Viviane Fischer again, because Viviane Fischer has changed her view.
And that's very important.
And
yes.
that's very important. She's now saying that actually there never was we discussed this last time as well, so they want to hear her again now with this new view. But that was, we don't even know if it was accepted or not accepted. The judge didn't really comment on it.
Yeah.
And then they submitted a request to hear Professor Dr. Martin Schwab, who was very intimately involved, he was very involved with Corona-Ausschuss.
Yes, totally involved. Yeah.
And he could say more about the construction of the loans and so on. So then the judge at first dismissed it. They didn't want to. And then, as I understood it, they changed the wording, and then the judge allowed if he appeared next week.
Yes, if he accepted to join the audition of next week, then he would be
the audition.
Is it not audition?
The hearing.
The hearing.
The audition.
L'audition.
I mean, it could be an audition. The theater spectacle is immense, but. So that was that. None of the Antonia Fischer is always there, and she didn't comment on any of the things.
Nothing.
And also the state prosecutor didn't have anything to say to all the submissions of evidence or whatever. And at one point it was quite funny because the judge was getting so into the routine of getting up and leaving for the next break that at one point he hastily came back and just quickly asked the state prosecutor and Antonia Fischer, or did you have anything to say?
Yeah.
And then they didn't, and so he rushed back. No, it was
quite special, yeah.
It was very funny. Are we forgetting anything? Reiner Fuellmich, of course, submitted some things. He has a typewriter that doesn't work, so the ribbon of his typewriter is not, you can't see the letters.
Has no color anymore, yes. No. Yeah, so you can't read it. Right.
No. Then on Sunday he got a new typewriter, but he couldn't figure out how it worked.
Yeah, he
is
did,
what I understood.
Yeah, totally. It was Saturday, yes. He only received it Saturday in the evening, but he didn't know how to use it, so he still could not write his applications, and so he asked for more time. And I mean, he mentioned as well that his possibilities of defending himself are really quite limited, and he spoke as well about torture.
Yeah, he did look to me very pale or grey.
He looked very, very grey today, yes.
Yeah, and he said, but maybe because you're German, of course, you're a native speaker, but I thought he said that he couldn't think as quickly, or he couldn't do things as quickly. Or was it just to do with the typewriter?
I thought it had to do with the typewriter and with the fact that he suffers some kind of torture, but I don't know, he didn't precise that. He didn't, probably, I mean, he is in isolation, like something like for at least 4 weeks, probably longer.
Yeah.
And I don't know what exactly he was talking about by mentioning this torture aspect. But of course, I mean, he has no access to anything. He cannot call whom he would like to call. He cannot discuss. So his possibilities are totally limited in defending himself. And I mean, it's really for me, it's quite surprising the way he still does it with a lot of energy and. And quite precisely, and still with humor as well. There
was a lot of humor today.
There was, it was so surreal that I mean, it just made us laugh several times, right?
Yeah, there's one point where the judge announced again that we will go into a break again. And then Herr Fuellmich said, "Oh, finally, a break," which was the 750th break. But
totally.
And also at one point, because of this rule that you only can submit something in documents and not read it out loud, and Reiner Fuellmich at one point said, "Look, I'm the accused here, and I don't even know anymore what's going on because I don't get to hear it, and I don't get to read it either." So it was eventful. So he is still going to submit about several applications for evidence and stuff, which will come next week. The judge sort of pushed for things to be submitted next week and no later than that. That would be the final day for requests, as I understood.
Yeah.
And then they did plan several new dates for late August and onwards until October.
Until October, yes.
Yeah. So I don't really know what's...
It's not sure that they will take place, I guess, but they have to propose at least to schedule those dates so that potentially they could take place.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, if Martin Schwab if it would be possible for him to come next week, then it could not be the final.
No, it's true.
Hearing anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the two parties can still make their plea. You know, they have to put their plea out.
Yes.
And as I understood it, Herr Miseré and Katja Wörmer, they decided that now that they can't speak in public in the court, that during their pleas, they would list everything that they couldn't say now. So the expectation is that they will be long sessions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
yes.
yeah.
I mean, Mr. Miseré said as well that because the one important point is as well that the judge always says that the decision of these applications will be given in the final statement with the judgment.
Yeah.
But that means that if they want to oppose something because they don't agree or anything, I mean, it will be very difficult to prepare anything on that, because if that's the final statement, then...
Yeah, and he said something that it would harm his client, because Reiner Fuellmich has the last word or something. He can say something to the judgments of the judges. But if all the decisions about the request come in the final judgment, then there's no room for Reiner Fuellmich to say anything. So that was important. There was another thing that I just thought of.
There was another thing that at some point, I think it was about the 16th session, I think we reported on that, not in English, but we reported in other languages on that. And maybe Reiner mentioned it in his statements. I don't remind exactly, but there was this moment when Reiner had to come here with this police escort, and we had police all over the trial, the courtroom, and it was quite special. And he was not only handcuffed, but his feet were cuffed as well. Yeah. And I mean, anyway, his hands are always cuffed in front of his breast, and that was quite special. And they recommended to him as well to use how do you call that?
Bulletproof vest.
Yes. But he refused that, and nobody knew why. And they asked the judge that day, well, were you informed about that? What is this all about? Because nobody explained it to Reiner or to anybody. Yeah. And the judge said, well, I'm not informed either. And so did the prosecutors. Nobody was informed. And in the meantime, of course, the defense lawyers thought that he did know. But actually, the sources of Mr. Miseré told him that they didn't know. But it was the LKA, the Landeskriminalamt, so the police. Yeah. Who were given a hint, and following this hint, they decided to do these special measures. Yeah, because at the time they didn't believe the judge, and they had submitted a statement of doubt or whatever to the judge, and Miseré, now very gentleman-like, said to the judge, "No, you were actually right. We know now that you didn't know anything about it." And the judge seemed very pleased. Yeah, he said, "Thank you." He was very. Yes, so you already mentioned that Miseré wrote something that was not really... No, not yet. No, we didn't, because we did another interview, so I don't remember if it was there. There was one point where, we don't know if it was deliberate or not, but Miseré had submitted something in handwriting, and the judge couldn't read it. They went backstage, they went to the back room, and then they came out because they couldn't read this particular piece. So then Miseré had to read it out loud after all. So that was a clever move, if it was deliberate. But it was a good idea anyway. It was a good idea. It was one of the rare informations we got this day. Yes. Yeah. No, it's quite absurd, because you sit down and you hear discussions about something, and then there's a break, and you don't actually know what is it about.
Next week, Wednesday, on the 14th of August, there'll be the next hearing.
Yeah.
And we'll see if Mr. Schwab will be there and whatever happens.
I mean, maybe one thing, because Reiner always does, he doesn't always do it. He already did it, but today in the end as well, he always makes a little sign to the public and to us as the press, and then he went out and he said, "We will get them all." I mean, it's his way of doing, but I mean, it's
keeping going as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you. I think we've covered most. I'm sure we've forgotten things, but the main gist we've got.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Kerstin.
Djamila. Thank
Till
you very
next
much.
time.
Yes. See you.